Coming up, a series of launches.
Who's going to Mars now?
And we look at Apollo 45? Stay tuned, tomorrow is landing.
Oh, it's beautiful, Mike. Got the flag up now. You can see the stars and stripes.
Private space station.
And welcome to Tomorrow, episode 7.21 for July 19th, 2014. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, is my beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented wife, Carrie Ann, will be your hosts for this episode. Now, before we get too far into this show, I did want to give a huge thank you to the patrons of Tomorrow who have helped make this specific segment of this episode happen. These are the people who have contributed at least $10 to this specific episode. We are a crowd-funded show, and every dollar helps. You can get more information on that at patreon.com/TMRO. All right, how about we get started with some space news? First up, on Sunday, July 13th, 2014, at 16:52 Universal Time, we had an Antares launch. Check it out.
2, 1, and we have ignition.
And we have liftoff of Antares for the Orbcomm mission from the Wall Flight Facility, delivering Cygnes on its second commercial resupply service to the International Space Station.
Antares off the pad. The SS Janus Voss on its way with the Orbital 2 science research supply mission to the International Space Station.
And fret not, we will create a new nominal video. I have not counted to see if they broke their own nominal record, but they certainly tried. They absolutely tried in this particular video. This launched from Pad 0A of the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport. That's at Wallops Island, Virginia, one of the first spaceports in America. Has the Cygnes spacecraft sitting atop. That's going to the International Space Station. It did berth with the space station 3 days later, carrying about 3,300 pounds of provisions. It had food research experiments. They were trying to learn how the body does changes in space. And they also had 29 small CubeSats, which would be ejected from the Japanese space station module. So that's sitting up at space station right now. Berth, they'll come down sometime in August, mid-August, August 15th, I think, or so. But that date kind of is in flux and can change around a little bit. So that was a commercial space launch, which was kind of awesome. But then the very next day, that next Monday, SpaceX was able to finally launch Falcon 9 Flight 10. That was Monday, July 14th at 15:15 Universal Time. Check this out.
3, 2, 1, 0. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Propulsion is nominal.
That had 6 Orbcomm satellites. All 6 of those Orbcomm satellites have since checked in with ground stations over Australia, and at this point, I believe they verified that solar panel deployment has worked. There are going to be 11 more of these satellites also set to launch on a future Falcon 9. That'll make the constellation 17 satellites strong of their second generation OG2 constellation. Of course, there was more than just the launch. I mean, SpaceX are going to do more than just launch a bunch of satellites, right?
For sure. If I may really quickly, even in the chat room, was like, this is a picture perfect launch. And it was absolutely gorgeous. Everything about it, other than, all the delays it took to get up to this particular launch, but the launch itself was beautiful. I think it's one of the first times that I've watched a SpaceX launch and really thought how beautiful and gorgeous it was. I know we used to do that with space shuttle launches, but this Falcon 9 launch was just, it was in fact picture perfect. So we were talking about the landing attempts.
Yeah, and actually Elon that same day tweeted out, he had 3 tweets that he sent out. The first one said, rocket booster re-entry, landing burn, and leg deploy were good, but lost hull integrity right after splashdown, aka kaboom, which leads us to believe explosion, but that's kind of open to interpretation at that point. Detailed review of rocket telemetry needed to tell if due to initial splashdown or subsequent tip over and body slam. He does like the word slam.
He does. Hover slam, body slam.
Yeah. And then finally, looks like body slam, maybe from a self-generated wave. How cool is that? Now, if you're wondering what he's talking about, that's of course taking the first stage of a rocket, detaching it from the second stage, flying it back down, and then trying to recover it. Now, the goal here is to drop it onto land, and there are
Eventually.
4 landing legs that will deploy and they'll land it on land, but they're still early in the development, so right now it gets pushed over the ocean. We don't have video from this last attempt, but there is video from CRS-3. This was cleaned up by NASA's spaceflight.
Oh, yeah.
This is approximately what it looks like. So you can see it coming down, and if you look carefully, you'll see the 4 legs kind of deploy. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, you see 2 of the 4 legs because
Right.
you're looking at half the vehicle. And then you'll see the engine firing in the middle. Whoosh, there's the ocean. And then kaboom, right down into the ocean. And that would normally not be kaboom into the ocean. It would
Right.
be onto land.
It would be asa.
It'd be kaboom, poof, and it would be done. So that happened. It seemed like it was fairly successful. It did land in the ocean, and they were able to. Yeah, I mean that's a good thing. So you're able to capture a lot of data, and figure out what it will take to advance that, so that you can actually start landing it on land someday in the future. And actually, for those, congratulations to NASA spaceflight. If anyone's seen the original video from that,
it was
unusable. You could get like maybe a frame, a frame out of it, and they made it into a usable video. So kudos to the entire team over there. That was pretty epic. Speaking of launches, the Soyuz 21A launched on Friday, July 18th at 2050 Universal Time. Now the audio in this is all messed up. It's like out of a sci-fi horror movie almost. Right? So this was launching a Russian Foton satellite. The neat thing about the Foton satellites is they're recoverable. So they've sent up live animals, plants, plant seeds, material samples, and what's going to happen is when the mission's complete, the spacecraft's going to break apart, and then it's got like a spherical landing capsule. It has a heat shield, and it's going to return to Earth with a parachute-assisted landing and should land somewhere in Russia. Then researchers are going to be researching the effects of microgravity on adult geckos, that would be the live animals that they sent up, including their sexual behavior and embryonic development, because, you know, that's what you want to do. They're also working on building Jurassic Park. That's going to be another thing that they're working on. This is the 16th time that the Foton satellite has launched since 1985, I think it is. I'm like, the name of the satellite, the name of like Proton. That's not it. Photon satellite. Excuse me. All right. ESA Rosetta update. So ESA is sending a spacecraft to Comet 67P. How do you say that?
Yep. Just
Exactly.
like that.
So 67P, I'm going to mess up. It's like Churyumov Gerasimenko. The thing is, it's been given nicknames. So it's Cherry Gary. That's a good one. Or Comet CG, or just sometimes 67P. That's because pronouncing the whole name is insane.
It's not insane. It's just Russian. Okay.
Whatever. I like calling it Cherry Gary. I think that's awesome.
Gary, yeah.
Cherry Gary. That's what we're going to call it. So this August, Rosetta's going to take high-resolution pictures. It's going to go around Cherry Gary and actually take. So you kind of see it going around. Off we go. And it's going to take high-resolution images of Cherry Gary itself from orbit, essentially. And then a little bit later on in November, there's going to be a small lander that's going to detach, and actually, as per its name, it will land on Cherry Gary. And for the first time ever, we'll have a rover, or not a rover, it's a lander. We'll have a stationary lander on an asteroid, able to send back imagery and science reports. That's going to be really freaking cool.
Ridiculously cool.
This is where it gets kind of exciting. They're actually getting closer and closer. So it has new imagery that's been beamed back to ESA. So every day we get closer, we get more and more resolution. In the next video, so Dutta, if you look at the next video in your timeline, there you go. That is actual imagery from Cherry Gary, or Comet CG or 67P. And check it out. It looks like a rubber ducky.
It does.
A little bit, right? Looks like a rubber ducky. And every day that we get closer, it will get a little bit cleaner and cleaner, and we'll be able to see a little bit more. But that's actually the imagery sent back from Rosetta to ESA, and then they reassembled it in this kind of little looping anim GIF kind of thing.
It's, yeah. Churyumov?
I have no idea.
Churyumov?
I'm not even going to try.
All right. Sorry.
All right, moving right along. The United Arab Emirates.
Yes.
Hopefully I said that right.
Fly Emirates.
There you go. They have a lot of energy. We'll put it that way. A lot of energy, and they sell that energy to the rest of the world and make a great deal of money.
Yes.
And they also have the world's tallest building. It's insanely huge. Well, now they've announced plans that they want to go to Mars. So check out this overly dramatic video.
Awesome.
It is amazing. I even love the music in the background. Go ahead and roll that. I'm just going to talk over it. Yeah. Oh, things to check out. Fun little things we noticed. This launcher has landing legs on it. So that's and they look just like the SpaceX landing legs, but it's like 5 cores.
Something like that, yeah.
Right. So it's 4 cores. Yes, 3
right.
around the outside and 1 in the center.
Yeah.
So 3 cores. I thought it was so that's not anything that SpaceX actually makes. And then, oh yeah, they're just over the top dramatic. They are super excited about going to Mars. Oh, and they have fairing jettison right after they go past the moon. So that's the thing.
Well, I mean, and that's where I want my fairings to be jettisoned.
Look,
anyway.
I know. I'm being uber picky. It is just
You
it's just an animation to get people excited about what they're doing.
It
is not going to be.
I mean, and how can you blame them for that, really?
Right, and then I love. We're just going to let this roll a little bit longer. I love when they get to Mars and they start beaming stuff back. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here it comes. Yeah. So come on, break apart. So anyhow, I'll do. They announced Wednesday's plans to establish a space program to send the first Arab spaceship to Mars in 2021. It's going to be an unmanned craft, and it's going to send. There you go. There you see it sending signals back to Earth. Yeah, there. Boom. There's come the signals now.
Yeah.
Now command it. Make it go. Make it go. So there we go.
That's so awesome.
Hopefully I'll pronounce his name right, but Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, hopefully I said that right, said the mission will prove that the Arab world is still capable of delivering scientific contributions to humanity despite the many conflicts across the Middle East. Yay, success. Huzzah! They got signals from Mars. That's going to be really
so cool.
So 2021.
That's so awesome.
Now we're going to be talking in our main topic today about how we went from nothing to boots on Mars in 7 years.
Right.
So 2021 is not that far away, but we kind of live in a day and age where it takes 10 years to build an engine less than what we had in the Apollo era. So interesting to see, because I don't know what rocket that was.
Right.
That's not a real rocket that exists today. So are they just going to buy a rocket from someone else?
Sure.
Or right? Are they?
Everybody's got rockets these days.
Are they going to develop their own rocket? What are they going to do? Because if they're trying to inspire, maybe they want their own rocket, so it's their own stuff. Otherwise, how inspiring is it just to get a signal back from Mars? Which, by the way, we're already doing with the Mars reconnaissance.
Well, we as the humans.
We as a human species are doing this daily.
But UAE, not so much.
Well, but my point is, if they're trying to be inspiring, then it should be their own stuff.
Right.
Right? Because then, okay, yeah, you built all this stuff and you're sending a signal back from Mars. That's really cool. But if you're like, okay, well, we're going to buy someone else's spacecraft, we're going to buy someone else's, then all you did is you bought everyone else's stuff and slapped your flag on it.
Right.
That's not nearly as cool. That's not nearly as inspiring. We'll see. We'll see what they do. All right. UK's first spaceport. Check this out. This looks a lot like Spaceport America. There we go. Those were the words I wanted. This was revealed to be what will likely be the first European spaceport on UK mainland. It's going to be, like I said, a lot more like Spaceport America than the Kennedy Space Center, which is, you think of KSC when you think of, giant, big spaceports. But when you think of commercial space, which I think is more what this is going to be for, you think Spaceport America, at least I do. And so you could be able to do suborbital launches from this this location. And actually, due to the UK's high latitude, really it's going to have to be focused on suborbital space tourism to make it make sense. You could do polar orbits, I suppose, but really it's going to be suborbital flights that's probably going to make the most sense. Right now they're trying to find an actual location for the spaceport, figure out where the heck they want to put it, but they've announced that this is the thing that they want to do, and the UK actually wants to do some cool things with space finally, which this is a good starting point. I thought that was really cool. Before we go into break, some pretty imagery. So these are gorgeous. Check this out. This is a bonsai tree. This is not CG, or this is not Photoshop. This is, they actually flew a bonsai tree up in a suborbital balloon.
Yep.
Right, and they took these pictures using a GoPro, which is really freaking cool.
Yep.
This was a collaboration between Azuma Makoto, his 10-person crew, and the Sacramento-based JP Aerospace. Check out the next photo. This is...
it's amazing. Yeah, and you're right. It totally does not look real in any way, shape, or form.
But it really is. This is absolutely real. Went up to
real.
91,000 feet. This one, I think, was like 87,000 feet or something like that. Now, the site that hosted it, I just found this funny. So I thought the imagery was pretty, so I figured I'd post it in the show. So the site that hosted it, as a space geek, I sighed and I busted out laughing at the same time. They said, quote, "A Japanese artist sent 2 botanical arrangements into orbit this week. The images of the spacebound plants are breathtaking. It didn't make it into space at all. It barely made it a third of the way to space. Didn't make it to orbit, and if it did orbit at that low of an altitude, holy man, that's some speed, man. That thing would be moving seriously fast. That tree would burn up."
So this is why shows like ours exist.
because of sites like that.
Because it's we just want to make sure that everyone has a decent understanding that just because you can see the curvature of the Earth, which is beautiful, by the way.
It is.
Absolutely gorgeous.
The photos are amazing.
Totally breathtaking in every single way.
Not space.
Does not mean that you are in space or orbit.
Or orbit. like
those are 2 very distinctive, like, they're really clear definitions of what those things are, and neither one of this does not define either one of those things, if that makes any sense. Still beautiful, still awesome to look at,
not
still
orbit.
Really cool, not space, and decidedly not orbit. It's just
I should post the link in the show notes. Even without us, there were people who were like, no, you got this. No.
Yeah.
No. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're in the midst of the Apollo 11 45-year anniversary. Yay. We're in the middle of it right now. We launched 45 years ago, a couple days ago, and we're going to land 45 years ago, a couple days from now. So we're right in the middle of it right now, this show. It's amazing. So stay tuned. We're going to take a look at what it was like 45 years ago and why we can't have that today. We'll be right back.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or follow little fashion lines. Filled with awesome expectation, this girl's a fascination. Nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving, the heat keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking, she's fire walking to be free.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
I'm going to step off the limb. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
That's just absolutely amazing. 7 years after the call to action, 7 years after, hey, we have nothing. The Russians are beating us. We have nothing in space, nothing in orbit. We've never done anything to humans walking on the moon. That's a huge, huge advancement.
It's crazy.
For humans.
Think about where you were 7 years ago.
Absolutely. So before we get started with this segment, I wanted to say thank you to all the patrons of tomorrow who've made this specific segment happen. These are the people who've contributed at least $5 to this specific episode. You can find more information at patreon.com/TMRO. Now, the amazing thing about the Apollo era was that it was done so quickly, but it is not something that we want to repeat. For several reasons. A lot of the people in the space community think we want the Apollo again. Big figures in the space industry kind of want an Apollo but for Mars, right? They want the government to do this. They think that with the correct political climate, we can make this happen. And you even hear in our own chat rooms on Reddit like /r/space, you'll hear, oh good, we'll have another space race again.
Right.
These are not necessarily good things. And so I mentioned the amazing speed in which we did this. Consider from nothing to in 7 years on the moon. Today, it's from nothing to like an engine in 10 years that is less capable than the F1 engine that put humans on the moon. So it takes even longer today. The difference is we're not in the middle of a Cold War. We're not worried every single day that we're going to be annihilated by nuclear weapons, right? We don't fear for our lives every single day.
Right.
We're not trying to beat someone else. Now we're doing it for the right reasons. Now we're doing it because we want to advance humanity, because we want to advance science. That's the right way to do it. When you do it the wrong way, when you do it the Apollo way, not that it was wrong itself,
right?
But its reasoning wasn't good for humanity. When you do it that way, you end up with flags and footprints and nothing else. And you don't get to go back for, let me just throw a random number out there, 45 years. So, randomly, well, it's technically not 45, but whatever. So, now is a different day. It takes longer to do this stuff because we don't have, in the Apollo era, you could waste anything but time.
Right.
So you could throw money at the problem, whatever. NASA had over 4% of the federal budget. Now they have less than 0.5%.
Yeah.
NASA's marching orders, they were told, you need to go to the moon, send a human to the moon, and safely bring them back.
Right.
Now their marching orders are huge books. You need to build a rocket that uses solid fuel. It doesn't have a destination. It needs to use this specific technology. You have to do it this way. We need to keep jobs in our district. Very, very different thing. So we live in a different time, but that's okay.
Right.
We live in an amazing time. We live in a time where commercial space just launched back to back. Right? Sunday and Monday, 2 commercial space, they sent spaceships to space with cargo on them. One of them is looking to upgrade that spaceship to send humans on it. We've got Virgin Galactic, I was like Virgin America, we've got Virgin Galactic ready to send you to suborbital space so you can experience zero-G. We've got X-Corps building the links. We live in an amazing time, and we live in a time when people do want to go to Mars. We looked at earlier, we did the news stories, UAE and someone else, ISRO. UAE and ISRO, within the span of 1 week, both announced missions to Mars.
Yep.
These are great things. So the next step, and the thing that we are all waiting for, is that human settlement of Mars. Not just the humans on Mars, but that human settlement of Mars.
Right, not just boots and bottoms, as it were.
Oh, it was boots and booties. We need boots and booties, I think someone said.
Who's that? Really?
Someone in the chat room.
Oh.
Boots and booties.
Boots and booties, as in, like, baby booties?
I don't know.
Is that what we're going
I don't know,
with
but
that?
it sounded awesome, so I decided to repeat it.
All right.
So anyhow, that's my slightly over-the-top, emotional, like, this is why we can't do it this way. And it makes me sad when you see people like Neil deGrasse Tyson say, we need NASA to do this, only NASA can do this. It needs to be in an inspiring program from there. Commercial space can't do this because they've got money in their best interest. And, you know, I won't speak on behalf of any of the commercial space programs, but I know that anyone that I work with at SpaceX, anyone that I work with at Mass and Space Systems, anyone that I know at X-Corps, anyone that I know at Mass and not work with, anyone that I know at JPL, all of us, we're all of the same mentality. We all want humans on Mars. And it doesn't matter what organization you work for we're each trying to make that happen. So I don't see it as it has to be government. Just because that's how we did it before doesn't mean that that's how we have to do it now. And when you look at Christopher Columbus, that was actually funded by privatized money as well. It was backed by the crown, but it was actually privatization that made that all happen.
Yes.
It was not government that made that happen.
It's funny because one person in the chat room says, we need another JFK. You know, Elon Musk should run for president. And then like 2 comments down, someone says, no more waiting for messiahs to show up and convince everyone what we need to do. We need to do it ourselves. And someone else agrees with that person saying, yeah, we don't need another JFK. The only reason we remember him fondly is because, sadly, because he was gone too soon, essentially. But it's interesting. It's even the chat room is kind of going back and forth of, you know, we need one leader to really rally the troops, and then another person's like, no, we are the troops. We just do it ourselves.
We are the troops, and we just do it ourselves. You know, 2 years ago, I argued against crowdfunding space programs. I said, look, this doesn't make sense. There's just the funds necessary to make this go. I will openly admit, I think I was wrong. You look at like even this show, we crowdfund this show, which I never would have imagined we'd be able to do, and it's wildly successful. And I think if we band together and say, hey, this is something that we as humans want to do, we need someone to put this together. You've got already companies working on it.
Right.
You've got multiple companies working on this problem, by the way. It's not just SpaceX. You've got multiple companies trying to get humans to Mars. SpaceX is the most public about it. But you've got other companies trying to do this. But what if you had a crowdfunded area as well, where you could say, look, this is what we're trying to do, and make it very open and like tell everyone what's going on and how we're getting from point A to point B. I think that'd be really cool. I don't think it's quite the timing yet.
Right.
I don't think we're quite there yet, but I see a time in the future when that may be possible. So that's that thought process. You had some interesting notes. There were just some interesting notes because we're in that weird Apollo 11 time right now. I'll just talk about my third point down, which is shifting topics slightly with regard to Apollo 11. There's a little bit of debate as to the first word spoken on the moon. So most people remember the first word being Houston. Specifically, Houston Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed. But according to Buzz Aldrin, I almost said Buzz Lightyear.
Oh, that's where we are 45 years later. And then Buzz Lightyear says, oh,
that's really embarrassing.
Goodness. You know what? In Ben's defense, he has not been feeling well today, so
he's gonna come punch you in the face.
So there's that poor thing.
He is. Thank you, Dada.
Well, you know, Buzz Lightyear was named after Buzz Aldrin, so you're. How many Buzzes do you know, people? All right, seriously. No, but Buzz, according to Buzz Aldrin. And when you do go back and you listen to the entire transcripts, I suppose, right? Listening to the transcripts, there are some technical things that they called it actually anymore now, you know, because when Curiosity landed on Mars, we had the 7 minutes of terror.
Yes.
Right? And so previous to that, before we had hashtags and all that other fun stuff.
Was it before hashtags?
Okay. There was the, I forget exactly what they call it, but like the 6 minutes of silence, or the 6 minutes of senility, or so they have a cute little catchphrase for it now. But that's you know, them going around the moon and trying to figure out, you know, exactly where they're supposed to be, where they need to land. You know, if you recall, they were running out of fuel, so they weren't sure like what was going to go on, and there was a little bit of something. So when you're talking about the first words on the moon,
when we're touching, the spacecraft is touching the moon,
right?
Technically speaking, the first word is contact, because Buzz Aldrin said contact light.
Because
technically speaking,
they touched the moon.
When humanity first touched the moon. Now, Dada and I got into an argument over this because he was. What was your?
They were still 45, 48 inches or so above the surface of the moon.
But they were touching the moon.
The craft was touching the moon, yes, but they had not landed yet.
Right. So then it kind of depends on how do you define this on the moon, right? Because we could go all the way to the definition and say, well, human feet have never actually touched the moon, only our boots have.
Right.
So have we ever actually been on the moon? Unless someone actually took I guess, regolith and rubbed it on the bottom of their foot, which I think may be illegal. So, I mean, it depends on how you want to look at it. But with the craft touching the moon,
right.
First words were contact light. I thought that was interesting. There were actually words spoken after that as well. Before we even hit...
Before we hit the Houston
right there, and I don't remember what they are. But
well, right, because you, like, with anything, when you are, you know, even when you land a plane, before you get on the comm and tell everybody, all right, cool, we've landed, everybody, and don't worry, your stuff is probably shifted up in the, right? I mean, before all of those words are spoken, there's other words that happen.
Apollo astronauts, be careful when opening the luggage bin, as your luggage may have shifted during flight.
You know what I'm saying? The point is that the wheels touch down, and you have down, you have wheels stop, and there's all the technical stuff. There's the boring stuff that I don't care about. I'm sure there's people in our chat room that love that and who are watching that love all that stuff, but the average human, which doesn't understand the technical mumbo jumbo, if you will, just give me that for a second, then the first thing you remember is Houston. It was so distinct, and it was something that we could all relate to, at least here in America. I will throw that part out. Houston, it was something we had heard before. We knew where it was. We knew who they were talking to when they referred to Houston. All the other contact light, blah, 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 didn't mean anything. It wasn't any... There wasn't any meaning behind it, I guess, is really my point. And if that was going to be in a tweet, it would be hashtag Houston.
All right, you have some shoes in here.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was really kind of cool. I
want them.
They're
ugly. They are so ugly, but I want them. Check these out.
I always think it's interesting.
They're so ugly.
They're so ugly. When we all we had a show not too long ago, right? Talking about space. No, but you know what I'm saying. Very specifically, talking about space and how to get your so-called non-space friends interested in space.
Yeah.
How do you have those conversations? How do you start those conversations? And then here you go. It's obviously not randomly. They timed it out. Here are moon boot inspired sneakers, which again,
they're so
ugly as
I want
sin.
them anyhow.
They're
Can you buy them?
Terrible.
Are these for real?
They are for real, but I don't believe you can buy them.
Oh. Can I wear them on the moon?
I wouldn't recommend it.
So that Nike had some too.
Nike had some as well,
right? So
which were a little better looking, I think, personally.
Well,
at least they are the shape of regular sneakers. They're not like these crazy high tops from the '80s. With a picture, essentially, it looks like the moon. It's the craters of the moon on essentially a gray sneaker, and those were going up for. Those were being like raffled off, so you weren't lining up in the stores for those. Those were actually a raffle sort of thing, and then the raffle was going on between Thursday and Friday of this week, and then people would be being let known today whether or not they were up for the availability to purchase them. It's really what that comes down to.
Can't I just get? Doesn't Nike have a thing where I can print my own thing on a shoe?
I think there are a couple of shoe companies that do that. That say, "Hey, have a cool pattern that you want. Always wanted space cats on your feet? Why not? And you pay us just a little extra money, and we will totally print that on there." So yeah, there's always a way to do that. And some of this stuff is for the sneakerheads who are gonna flip out over Velcros or non-Velcros.
That's a great idea.
Okay,
they should make soles with regolith and impregnated rubber.
I just like the idea of having the like moon boot tread.
Yeah, the first one has that.
Oh, does it?
My understanding is the first one has that.
Very nice.
So, all right.
Very nice. In case you're interested, while the festivities are still going on, for those of us who were not around at the time and are really into the hashtag thing now, you can go to youtube.com/Apollo45, and there's a bunch of different videos celebrating the Apollo 11 landing, the moon landing. And you can also hit Twitter at #Apollo45, to which somebody, I was crying. I was laughing so hard talking about this. They said, the only confusing thing about the #Apollo45 is that I keep wondering what happened to all of the Apollo missions that I missed.
Well, we know what happened with Apollo 18.
Apollo 18, and that's why. Anyway, and then if you happen to be in San Diego for the Comic-Con this coming weekend, Thursday at 3 p.m., Comic-Con, we'll be having a panel with, I kid you not, hashtag Next Giant Leap. There's a panel, it's Buzz Aldrin, I think it's Mohawk Guy, it's hosted by Seth Green. There's a couple other people, planetary guy from, not the planetary guy, but NASA's own planetary guy, a couple other people on the panel. So that's really cool. I just really appreciate how space in general has very much so infiltrated the regular populace with stupid stuff like sneakers and hashtags and panels at Comic-Con.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, comments from our last show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome, future patrons of Tomorrow. If you're not familiar with who Tomorrow is, we're a live weekly webcast about the cosmos and human exploration of the stars. We'll feature things like rocket launches, we'll have guest interviews, we'll have amazing conversations about the cosmos, and of course an interactive chat room so that you can not only talk with other like-minded cosmic explorers, but also us, the hosts of the show, as well. And we're just generally excited about humans exploring space. And we're here on Patreon as a way to crowdfund the show itself. Because this isn't something that a normal network would pick up, but it is something that a lot of us are really, really excited about. For those of you not familiar with Patreon, think of it like a recurring Kickstarter, a way for you to contribute to the show, but on a per episode basis instead of just once. You can contribute whatever amount you feel fit for these episodes, but once you start hitting that $1 mark, we're going to start giving rewards back to you. At $1, you'll get your name in the credits. At $5, you'll get your name in the credits. Plus, you're going to get a exclusive Google Hangout. At $10, you get even more stuff. Contribute what you feel is fair. Now, you know what I said, this is on a per episode basis, and we do have more than one episode per month. So if you want to make sure that you don't spend too much money per month, you can set an upper level cap. For example, you can contribute $5 per episode, but no more than $25 per month. Or you can contribute $1 per episode, but no more than $10 per month, whatever fits your budget. And if you'd like to see where your crowdfunded contributions are going, check out our goals. We're always getting new equipment. We're trying to do cool new things with social media. We're trying to do some amazing things in this space. And each goal helps us get closer and closer to realizing one of those new things. With the help of you, our patrons, we can make this show truly something special. And let me be the first to welcome you to Tomorrow. And welcome back to Tomorrow. I don't know who did that advertisement, but he was devilishly handsome. And I love that closing line. I didn't think it cheesy at all. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And no, that was not a 2-minute advertisement that we just threw in the middle of the show. What? All right, clearly we need to work on that. All right, I did want to give a huge thank you, speaking of Patreon, to the patrons of Tomorrow who have helped make this segment of this episode go. This first page, because that's now how it has to be. This first page is everyone who's contributed $3 or more to this specific episode. Then we've got another page. This page, the second page, page 2.
Just us.
No, yeah, there you go. This second page, nothing more. These are people who've contributed $1 to this specific episode. So, every single dollar helps. It helps a great deal. In fact, this last week, we pushed over our $600 Patreon goal, and we are now going to be trying to work on social media integration. It's going to be pretty cool. The biggest deal, and Dutta, go to the Dutta camp. So wave and say hi, everyone, to Dutta. This is, you can see him mostly after dark.
Hi, everyone.
There you go. That's our director, Dutta. The problem we have right now is that the computer that runs all the graphics and the video shows and all that stuff like that is what's the word I'm looking for? Hyper unstable. And so we're going to be ordering a new one, and that new computer is also what will do all the social media integration. And there will be some cool things where when you tweet hashtag. See, you do hashtag. I do hashtag. Yeah. I like Jimmy Fallon's hashtag. You do hashtag TMRO. Although this is easier. When you tweet hashtag TMRO, I think that would be the first thing we do. If you have got a cool tweet, it'll show up on our screens over here, and we can press it, and it will actually burn into the bottom of the screen, so we can have real-time conversations during the show and put it at the bottom of the screen. You guys help make that happen, so that'll be coming. We'll start the ordering this early next month, and then it will take a little bit of time to develop, but you'll start to see it happen rapidly. All right, let's get into some comments from our last show. This first one comes from Nick Cullen.
Nick says...
Hi, Nick.
Hi, Nick. The thing that gets me most excited for solar sails is that they can power future cargo deliveries to Mars, and they can be collected over time to act as solar mirrors to help with the warming/terraforming of Mars.
I thought that was an interesting idea. The idea that you can use like light sail to then also use it as sun catchers or sun reflectors, essentially, to help warm the planet, because to terraform Mars, ironically, to terraform Mars, we need to start global warming.
So because solar sails
are
already in those kind of triangular position or triangular shapes.
Sure, they can be any shape you want them to be,
right,
really.
But so the ones we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Okay. And because Epcot's great golf ball is also made up of a bunch of...
It's a geodesic sphere, yeah.
Right, is made up of triangles. Can we just build one of those?
A giant... In space, a giant geodesic
sphere. Geodesic sphere.
Jeez.
Yeah, out of solar sails.
That would actually be kind of cool. Can we get like a space shuttle main engine coffee table over at it too?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Because want to know why? Want to know why?
Why?
Want to know why?
Why?
Because everything can be bigger on Mars.
What? Why is that?
I don't know.
All right. From Todd. This comes from the new... Actually, if you're watching the live show, you're forwarded to tmro.tv. You can see us as we develop the site. We're not done developing the site yet, but you can watch us develop it, and you can watch it like randomly just page error on us, or you can watch the code get changed, or how some things do not line up. Or my favorite, right now at the very bottom, it's like, put your widgets here. But anyhow... Todd says, with this interview of Dr. Franklin Chang Diaz, you've become a real show. Congrats. You know, it's funny. Thanks, Todd.
I don't recall my nose ever growing before I became a real show. Every time I lied, my news...
Why were we not a real show before then? We had interviews before then.
We were made out of wood. Well, Todd's only been watching for like 2 episodes now, so...
I'm sure that's not what he meant, but I read that and I laughed. I'm like, screw you, Todd. We've been a real show for like 6 years, 7 seasons.
Maybe Todd's only watched the After Dark shows and now finally
After Dark is not a real show.
Tuned into a real show?
After Dark is not a real show.
Who knows?
Oh, man.
That's funny.
I'm sure he didn't mean it that way.
I actually wondered why you put that in here.
Because it was freaking hilarious. That's why. All right, the next comment.
Okay.
This comes from Reddit/TMRO.
Yes, it comes from Nukeden.
That's
what we're going to go with.
Boosh.
This particular developing technology, Vasir thrusters, is fascinating. Thank you for spending the time to expose us to the exciting new developments happening in this field. I can realistically foresee a day that these thrusters enable robotic spacecraft to accomplish such tasks as chasing down an asteroid, attaching themselves to it, then pushing the asteroid towards a larger mining facility where it would refuel and begin again. Very exciting. With increased power and reduced fuel capacity requirements, such a craft could be more profitable to operate than those with chemical propulsion, and therefore more likely to draw investors. Guess it's about time to start putting together a business plan and prospectus.
Yes, everyone should be putting together business plans about how you can work in space, because it's going to be a lot more than just, hey, we need a big, huge rocket to go into space. Soon it's going to be, we need doctors in space, we need artists in space, we need chefs in space, we need everything we've got down here we're going to need in space, and we're going to need those same businesses up in space. So start thinking about those things. Start thinking about, okay, with those suborbital space flights, maybe there's a business plan that you can tack onto the side of that somehow, right? I don't know what that is. Maybe there is. Our business plan is to get you excited about space, right? And to make this community-driven thing.
Didn't Chris Lewicki say something along the lines of like, way before he was at Planetary Resources, possibly even before he was at NASA, he made himself business cards that said something along the lines of like, I will be an astronaut, or I will be an asteroid miner. I feel like there was that, like, he went through all of this trouble and now he's like head asteroid miner at Planetary Resources.
That's a great way to look at it. I'm going to throw one out there. This is one I've been thinking of. She hasn't even heard this one yet, so
yay!
She loves
live
it when
reaction on air.
She loves it when I do this. Which was, wouldn't it be cool if at the launch sites, like at Kennedy Space Center, someone created a crowdfunded show kind of thing, probably Kickstarter to get started, where it's a viewing area. Now they've got Space View Park, but I was thinking something a little bit bigger and badder, where you've got a little bit more space, you've got places to park, you've got vendors, you've got internet out there, but then more importantly, you've also got screens and access to comms and other things that would make the viewing experience really, really awesome. So you could start, maybe an hour before flight or 2 hours, have your tweet ups there.
Right.
You've got really good, great, high quality, large, bright outdoor LED panels
Right.
That you can actually watch up until the flight, but then you'll be able to actually watch the vehicle ascend, and then 2 minutes later, when you can't really see it with the human eye anymore, you can walk back to those screens. Maybe covered in the area because it's so flippin' bright and hot out there, so that you've got a little bit of shelter from the sun. Just a really nice, permanent place to go view launches, and a place where you can actually have all of the media or some of the media out there doing shows. So you've got a large group of people. You can show the groups of people in the background, so it actually looks like people are interested in space again, as opposed to just the shots of the rocket, stuff like that.
Right.
So that was my hey, you could crowdfund. Someone could probably do that, crowdfund it to begin with, and then do a Patreon recurring thing, or a really inexpensive ticket to just go there. Once you've got the base part of it funded, it shouldn't take that much to operate on a monthly basis.
Launch coverage lounge areas.
The launch coverage lounge, I love it. I love it.
Then just in you mentioned hot, and I grabbed onto that. So I was like, and you can have a dunk tank over here, and you have a place where you can get your hair cut over here, because I'm sure there'd be a lot of guys who'd be like, all right, this is just not going to be a thing. Just. You could have where my mind goes.
Well, that's it. I figured it out. Here's the business model for this place.
Yes.
There are 5 air-conditioned rooms.
Yes.
Now, the launch site itself is free.
Right.
But 10 minutes in the air-conditioned room is $20.
Yes.
And it only fits one person.
Yes.
But you still have the TV, and all it is just an air-conditioned room.
It's terrible.
For any of you who've ever been in Florida, you'll know what we're talking about.
Okay.
All right. Next comment.
Gracious. It comes from Bernard Pickler, I believe. Anyway, I'm confused about the vertical integration explanation. Doesn't it mean that the rocket and the payload are mounted in a vertical position? If you read the Wikipedia article, quote, SpaceX launch facilities, you will find the term, quote, vertical integration facility, indicating that this is the right explanation in this context.
It is the incorrect explanation because of the term facility.
Facility, exactly. That's the modifier to the term vertical integration. There's 2 ways of looking at it. One is the things are in a vertical integration as you're speaking, and that's actually one of the areas of contend. I guess is what am I trying to say? SpaceX for the rocket, when loading payload, cannot do vertical.
They do it horizontally.
Integration. They do horizontal integration.
When integrating the fairing onto the rocket.
Correct.
Yeah.
However, when you're talking about a vertically integrated facility, you're due better explanation on this one.
No. So a vertical integrated facility, that is a vertical integrated facility.
Sure.
So the facility itself would be, so you mentioned the difference between horizontal integration and vertical integration from a facility standpoint.
Okay.
But a vertically integrated company, which is what we're talking about.
Sorry.
A vertically integrated company means that they are sourcing all their parts essentially internally.
Right.
They are doing all of their part creation in-house. So they don't go outside the company. They don't go this way to get their parts. They go in the company to get their parts, if that makes any sense.
Right. As someone, Vax Headroom in the chat room says, the difference is facility versus business model.
Correct. So the hard part is both use the term vertical integration. The difference is I stop there. You can't add the word facility.
Right.
So vertically integrated, if you search Wiki for vertical integration, you'll actually get the term that I was speaking of.
Okay.
If you add facility, you will not.
There you go.
So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps. All right, moving on. James spanks me and says,
so you said you didn't want to use 3-letter acronyms, so what's an ISP then?
Yeah, I am 150 million% guilty of doing that. In last week's show, we said we try to avoid using 3-letter acronyms or any acronyms because we wanted to make the show available to everyone. So we usually say what the thing is, with the exception of NASA. Most of the world knows who NASA is.
ESA, JAXA.
And even then, we'll sometimes, even with ESA,
we try to use both. Actually,
we kind of intermix. But
even earlier today, we said we spelled out ISRO, and we also used the term ISRO.
Mm-hmm. So stuff like that, we'll try to explain it. However, I didn't say what we were talking about. We were talking about the new engine on Firefly.
Right, and
I
this is to be
mentioned the
specific-
ISP of the engine,
Correct.
but I didn't describe what it was.
Because we're not speaking about your internet service provider.
I know.
To be,
and if
just
you
to be
search for
clear,
ISP, that's probably what you'll come up with.
It's like the first 3 million hits.
ISP stands for specific impulse. And what it is it's a way to describe the efficiency of a rocket or a jet engine, and it's basically measured in time. So it represents the force
with respect to the amount of propellant used per unit time is what you've written.
Yes, but I'm trying to find a good example.
Okay.
An easy way to describe this, an ISP of 400, which would be an amazing rocket engine, but an ISP of 400 versus a rocket engine that has an ISP of 800. A rocket engine that has an ISP of 800 will have twice the amount of force for the same amount of time, or the same amount of force for twice the amount of time.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
That's what, and it's one of the ways you can measure a rocket engine. It's one of the many ways to measure the efficiency of a rocket engine, if that helps. Hopefully that describes what ISP is in a really poor way. All right, moving on. I have no idea how to pronounce that.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I apologize that sometimes, besides not reading the comments, although I did read all of the comments this week before reading them on air, is sometimes I don't always look at the commenter's name, which this one is, you know what? I think it's Street Cred 0. Eh?
Oh.
Cred 0.
Do you not have that one? I don't know if you have that one.
Well, Street Cred 0, nonetheless,
there it is.
from YouTube.
There it is. Yeah, that's it.
Says, what about Zubrin's claim that Vasir is not viable?
Zubrin. So, the problem with all electric engines right now is the amount of power required, and the amount of power is not small, right? So you need a great deal of power to do things. To do awesome things, you need awesome power. It's that simple. That doesn't mean that the engines don't work at lower amounts of power. It just means that you get lower amounts of thrust. So Zubrin is on this rampage against Vasir. I kind of understand his point, but he goes about things the wrong way. And this is the third year in a row now where he's contacted the Ad Astra rocket company and said, hey, I want to debate you on this thing. And then they don't show up because why would you? It's a horror. You don't show up to someone's debate on their home turf like that. That would be stupid. And
are you calling Bill Nye stupid?
Maybe. That was not a smart move. Anyhow, you just don't do that. And so Robert Zubrin is so focused on Mars that he does this sometimes. And he refuses to see other things. There are other applications for Vasir outside of Mars that make sense. And you don't have to use Vasir to get to Mars. Now, it is, once you have that huge amount of energy, it actually will help you get to Mars faster, and it will be a good viable model for Mars once that's possible. That may not be possible in our lifetime. But you shouldn't knock the technology because you don't see it yet and because it doesn't get you on your fast track to Mars. Dr. Robert Zubrin, while he has a lot of great stuff there, I fear that he's so focused on putting humans on Mars, no matter the cost, that he's going to end up with a flags and footprints scenario again, which is the worst possible way to go to Mars. So it's not that Vasir isn't viable, it's that it's not going to get Robert Zubrin to Mars in a faster way. And it also means that we should not be waiting for Vasir to go to Mars. And I think it's part of his gripe is that, you know, people are saying, well, we'll just wait for Vasir to have its 200 megawatt, not kilowatt, megawatt engine, and then we'll get to Mars really quickly. And he's like, no, 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 which he's not wrong on. But that doesn't mean that the engine's not viable.
If I may point out, just very quickly, and hopefully we'll have a link to this in our show notes. But there was the MarsSociety.org published the letter this year, I will say, that Zubrin sent to Dr. Chang Diaz.
Yep.
And it happens to be dated I thought was of note, for June 13th, 2014. The day
after our show?
The day after we had the interview with Dr. Chang Diaz.
That's probably coincidence, because he asks him every year.
But who sends a letter dated on a Sunday?
I guess. I I don't disagree with all of what Zubrin says, and I do admire him for just having the zeal and never giving up and going for Mars. Good for him.
Right.
But at the same time, sometimes the way he does it is wrong. This is one of those ways that I think is wrong. I feel like this maneuver is slightly childish. It serves no one, and it's not going to get him to Mars any faster. In my opinion, he should drop it. Vasir is a viable product. I believe, well, is likely a viable product. I'd be very surprised if it's not. It's going to space.
Yeah.
Whether he wants it to or not, it's going up to the space station.
Yes.
And it will start doing things. Whether or not it's doing things with Mars is irrelevant. This is what this is to rocketry, electric engines, as to what chemical engines were in the 50s. Right? So there's a lot we can do here, and there's a lot of really cool stuff we can do, and it scales more. Anyhow.
I'm just saying.
That's my personal opinion. That's my opinion. Doesn't reflect the opinions of anyone else. All right, final comment for the show.
Final comment comes from Sean O'Nilbud.
Yep.
We'll go with that, or Sean. Sea Dragon.
Yes, I totally agree. Sea Dragon is awesome. Sea Dragon is
quite literally. That's all he wrote.
Yep.
From YouTube, because...
No need, because you say Sea Dragon, and I'm like, yes, let's do that. You know what? I'm not even describing the show. You want to know what Sea Dragon is? Go look it up on Wikipedia. It is awesome. I'll say this. You can fit entire sections of the Apollo rocket into just engine parts on a Sea Dragon. This was designed and thought up at a time when rocket scientists ruled the world back in the 50s and 60s.
There was a time that happened.
Oh, there was. Back when we were putting humans on the moon, that's when rocket scientists were,
we weren't putting humans on the moon. We were putting boots on the moon.
All right, that's our show for this week. Well played. Well played. That's our show for this week. I'd like to thank everyone so much for watching. If you're watching live, stay tuned. After Dark is up next. If you're a patron of tomorrow and you're at the $3 or above level, you'll be able to get access to After Dark right away. Everyone else, you'll have access to this After Dark episode about a month from now. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.